Well, having been part of it since its inception, you know what I tell people, and not only people in Owensboro, but people around the state and other people from out of the state who have come, is that Owensboro as a city stood up and said, we're going to take control of our future. We're going to stop continuing to wait on state government and federal government and hope for a miracle, that we were going to take control of what we're developing as the core of our city and what we think is an enormous economic development tool. And that was, you know, and the idea of that being the core of our city kind of evolved from the We the People meeting that happened, you know, probably almost 3 years ago. But I feel strongly about the fact that, you know, it's an initiative that was homegrown. You know, we're supporting it. It's a tax that when we're done, the tax is going to go away when the project's finished. We think it's going to have a huge impact on our community. If you look back 60 years ago, and you know, when you go to the Owensboro Sports Center now, you probably aren't as impressed as you would have been 60 years ago. But you think about the significance the Sports Center's played in 60 years, and somebody 60 years ago had to think and dream pretty big to develop something like that, and they probably received a great deal of criticism for doing it. And I think that's where we are 60 years later. We're taking a project and we're trying to make it significant, and we're trying to make it have an impact for all the citizens of Owensboro for the next 50 or 60 years.
One of the major components of that is the downtown event center, and the price tag for that is still somewhat in flux. The city's committed, I believe, $7 to $8 million on top of the county's commitment. What are your thoughts about financing that going forward? Would you be willing to expand the city's investment in that event center
And
if
I
needed?
think it's a good question. I think it gets back to what my last answer was, is that, you know, we need to make sure what we do, we don't do it on the cheap, and we do it so that in 10 or 15 years we don't have elected officials when we're gone saying, you know, wish you'd built it bigger. But as an elected official, I'm willing to do what it takes to create a significant event center. Not exactly sure what that is. I'm on the planning committee right now, and there's so many questions and so many to answer and so many decisions to be made that it's hard to say exactly what it's going to cost right now. There are a lot of variables that are going to influence that. But I think our committee is committed to building something that we think is going to be lasting, and something that's going to be something Owensboro could be proud of. It's funny, a candidate running for judge stopped me a couple of days ago, and he said, you know, I wasn't sure about the downtown initiative, you know, 6 or 7 months ago, but he said, I've really come full circle. He said, and he used the sports center. He said, you know, I've been here in Owensboro about as long as you have. We've been here most of our entire life. And he said, you know, those guys that built the sports center, they really had vision. So he said, I'm asking you as an elected official and someone on that committee to make sure you've got vision for not 10 years down the road, but for 50 years down the road. And that's what we're trying to do.
Do you see a tipping point for those folks that might be on the fence about the impact of something like this, or the wisdom of such an investment? I mean, in the broad project of downtown development, do you see a tipping point when that folks will say, oh yeah, now I understand what they had in mind?
Well, I think it'll happen, and it'll be in a process. Some people have already changed their mind. Some people will change their mind when we cut the ribbon. Some people will change their mind 12 months after we cut the ribbon, and they see the economic impact and what it means to our community. And honestly, some people may never change their mind. I hope they all do, but you know, there's probably, you know, a case where some people will never think it was a good investment in our own community.